Hello.
Hi. I can hear you.
Oh, so nice.
I can't believe that all I have to do is click a button and I get Naoli live.
Oh,
How cool is this?
it's so cool to see you too. So
Yeah.
nice. It feels like the time has flown since we saw each other. And
Unbelievable.
isn't it? Yes. How has the new year been so far?
Good, very busy with all kinds of things. And yeah. It's gonna be a year full of work.
Hmm.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Caroline.
Hello.
Hello, Caroline. Hello, Melissa. And
Hello.
Sandra. It's such a pleasure to see you again. So, well, let's see. It's been only 2 weeks, and the year is already full and full of speed, isn't it? Yes. Where are you living, Caroline? Because you are, you speak Portuguese. Are you Brazilian?
Yeah. I live in Canada right now.
In Canada.
I used to live in San Francisco, California.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're a
Yeah. So
doula?
I live,
Are you a doula or a
yeah,
midwife?
I'm a
A doula.
doula. hmm
Could you tell us a little bit of your work? I
Yeah.
yes, please
The
introduce you.
last it's an honor to be here. Oh my God, I'm so happy. And I love you so much and the container that you hold for all of us. I'm so grateful for your existence in this planet.
Mm,
Thank you endlessly. And my work as a doula started in 2018 in San Francisco, and I did a full spectrum training that included pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. And I worked in San Francisco a lot with postpartum. And then I slightly transitioned to support immigrant women in San Francisco. So women without papers, getting ready for birth, how they would do with medical, and how they would empower themselves to speak to the the nurses about their desires. And because in Brazil we come from a tricky dynamics with birth, and they kind of like somehow replicate that inside the Bay Area in terms of because they don't know how to stand up for themselves in another way. So I was just introducing them to other concepts and kind of like a possible birth without cesarean necessarily,
mhm,
and without C-section, and very like the patriarchal, like opening up for another perspectives. And I did that through whole COVID process, and then I started working online as well. So it broadened up to Canada, and now I am living here in Canada. I'm both working with women in United States and right now here in this region that I live, which is Okanagan area.
mhm,
So I have two mothers that I'm assisting with right now, that they are Canadians,
mhm.
and I am in contact with some Brazilian women that live around here as well.
Very nice, very nice, very important work. So important to work with migrant people and to help already pregnant women, birthing women have a difficult time being warmly received in the medical system for respectful births, and now people who don't speak the language or don't understand the culture well, it's even more of a challenge. It's very
hmm
nice what you do. Very proud of you. Very lovely.
Thank you.
Yes. Johnny, you can go. Raquel, hello, Rachel. Hello. Very nice to see you. Very nice to see you. And Sandra, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit here to the group? Because I know you mostly, but it's also so interesting the work you do. So I think it's a very good opportunity beginning this year to get to know each other a little bit better. Yes?
Yeah, thank you, Naoli, for the opportunity. Hi, it's really nice to see all of you, and I'm very glad to hear a little bit about. I was very glad to hear a little bit about your work, Caroline. I'm here in the Paris region, so near Paris, and I do a lot of hypnobirthing, and I work with
Hello? I can't hear you anymore. Can everybody hear Ruxandra? Yes?
oh
Oh,
yes.
now I can hear again. Okay.
Oh, now can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. My sound should be on, so but let me know if you. So I was saying a lot of my work is a lot of it is with especially since last summer when I had the immense chance and luck to spend a week with Naoli and learning from Naoli. And working with a rebozo this summer for me was a very interesting experience because it's my introduction, thanks to you, Naoli, with the rebozo. And it was all new, but it was this feeling when I was discovering something new, but at the same time, this feeling that I kind of knew there's something about the touch of it and the simplicity that I felt like I had known this for a while, or I don't know how to say it. I don't know, maybe my ancestors, in Romania worked with the Romanian rebozo, or I don't know what it was. But I include it always now in my sessions, and it comes up all the time. And so for so many reasons that now I always go with one or two rebozos in the sessions, and it's very interesting because I'm starting to use it a lot with hypnosis. Sometimes, instead of doing a hypnotic relaxation, I just do a little bit of rebozo and then I do the hypnosis work, you see? Or, I wrap it around somebody's shoulders and then we do the hypnosis. Or then it's also a facilitator for speaking. Some people who have a hard time speaking, you put them in the rebozo and you work like that a little bit, and then they speak about things they wouldn't say otherwise. So I just think it is amazing. I'm totally fascinated by all these things that it can do. So thank you for that, Naoli. And
Wow.
yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think, all of my work so far has been in person, except for the confinement when we did some Zoom. I work in English and in French, and I think more and more I want to come up with something either online or like a little video vignettes that I can share with people to help them boost their hypnosis practice. Because in between sessions, I suggest some exercises that they can do every day, and a lot of people practice them actually. But I'm thinking of different kinds of supports like that. And then I guess the last thing that I would mention is that is simply just because it's on my mind is that I really am thinking a lot of in France what could be done from a public policy standpoint, because I have so many couples who are confident in the physiology of birth. They've taken time become informed, and there's such partnership. They've practiced the tools and they go in to have this extraordinary experience, that is the birth of their child. And very often there's interference from maternity protocols, from maybe caretakers that walk in, that have that interrupt, or that. So it's like all these things that don't belong to them, but that immerse themselves in their experience, and that it bothers them. It breaks the concentration, it slows things down, and it's so clear and obvious to see that I'm always thinking, like, all this work that I do and that they do, and then there's got to be something that we can do to change the maternity system, the hospital, the like a bigger kind of, which of course has nothing to do with hypnobirthing. It's more like a public policy work, but more and more I'm thinking, where is change going to come from?
Yeah. And I imagine it will come from all the different angles that we start moving, not just one, but everywhere. If from every angle things start changing, the medulla of it has to change. And
we're gonna shake it up
on all angles, yeah. And a lot of it has to do with the recipients, the pregnant women, the users. If they demand it, if they expect it, if they won't take, if they won't accept the way it is. But that's a challenging thing, because when a pregnant woman is pregnant, unless she's a very powerful entity or she's united as a group with other women, she tends to feel vulnerable and at the mercy and afraid. And already the system will threaten her, saying, oh, are you sure you want to take that risk? It's under your own responsibility. And it's difficult, but most times when the woman has given birth and the women come together as a group and they become a force of consciousness and of activism, then things move. But it has to be from all the angles. Otherwise, midwives themselves or doulas themselves, without the support of the users, of the women who receive their services, and then from within the system too, the doctors and the nurses themselves and the therapists themselves who are inside the hospital, many of them are waking up to, because they've had perhaps a home birth, or they've had a life experience that has awakened a sensibility that that it's in regards of those topics. But it's got to be, oh my goodness, I think a lot of the videos and the written text that can be published, the media has a lot of power. There's no wonder why Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all those entities have so much power and so much money, because they reach inside of people's homes and they mold the consciousness of people. That's probably why even some of us who are extremely busy and we don't really like to spend time, and I don't really spend time looking at much of Facebook or Instagram, we still have to post things because that's where people go to for information. Yeah, and the one-on-one conversations make a great difference too. And maybe going to schools, talking with the young people already, young men and women, and in high schools. But that it seems to take a lot of energy and time. So there's got to be people doing all kinds of things in every aspect. Sometimes it feels kind of hopeless because, at least today I was feeling so just overwhelmed by all the projects I have, finishing my book and then making more videos and keeping the website going and giving love to my daughter who's visiting and who I haven't really spent enough time with, and then my granddaughter wanting to play, and then all the different aspects of life, planning workshops and so on, it feels as if we don't have enough time to do everything we want and need to do. But chipping away, right? We just chip away. Let me see. I'm trying to see the conversations. Oh, I see. I think my Zoom app changed a little bit from an hour ago to now. Yes, demands daily activism. Yeah, yeah, which is beautiful, especially when we feel that we're definitely not alone and that what we do has an impact and makes a difference. That gives a lot of energy to
Can
continue.
I just want to share, that within this topic, there's a very good book. It's called Decolonial Feminism, that was written by François Verger and she is from Paris. And this book is already translated into English, Portuguese, and Spanish as well.
Mhm.
And there is a specific decolonial, like decolonial.
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 Decolonial. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. And what's the
hmm
name of the author?
François
I,
Verger.
s- I saw it. I'm gonna send a link.
Okay.
hmm
Okay. Great.
And yes, exactly. And there's a very important part of it, that weaves all of that, is that this it's like we're going to need to change, like, from the roots. And in us as women, that are being able to access those places of privilege, we are uh, our activism is highly demanded, because the way we act, the way we talk, and how we stand for women of color, how we stand for babies, giving, like, how we stand for this change, uh, demands us a lot. So it sometimes is overwhelming for the person that is doing that as well, right? So part of the job is also learning how to uh, make that change without burning ourselves off and losing the experience with what we are aiming to achieve, like the love and respect and pleasure and caring for each other in a deeper level. So like I think you will like this book, and I feel that this book talks about transgenerational trauma, and talks about some of s- s- slavery and how this ripples into reality. And it's completely connected to the work of bringing babies to the planet.
Mm,
hmm
beautiful. And you find it in English, of course. Yeah. Okay. I will look for it. You have it there? Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Are you reading it, Rachel?
Yeah, I will. I'll order it now on Amazon, of course.
Uh-huh. On what's it called? Kindle? Kindle? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for the tip for reading. Oh, and what about you, Rachel? How are you doing on the corner of your world? That little beautiful Wales.
Hi. Yeah, I'm good. I started the new year. I felt a bit overwhelmed by doing nothing but feeling I'm got a lot of lists of things to do. So, but I just had an interview as a volunteer, actually, but as a volunteer to be a birth partner for asylum women in a city near me. So I thought, or I just contacted them and offered, they were doing interviews for birth partner volunteers, but then I saw they actually also need someone potentially to help the women that are birth partners to debrief about births that they're involved with. So I thought, oh, maybe I could do that. Hear lots of birth stories, maybe be involved with their training as well. And yeah, at the moment, it's in Britain, it's very much, well, we've had lots of strikes, ambulance strikes, midwife strikes, nurses strikes. So everything does feel a bit unstable, and the cesarean, all women are quite, home births aren't happening unless, you know, you're prepared to free birth in some places. So it all feels a little bit, so I'm just focusing at home. And I just thought I'll focus on one-to-one with people.
So you're not going out to births for the moment as a midwife?
In my area there are, but there has been ambulance strikes. So that makes people much more local people more nervous. Even though when we call an ambulance for a birth, if we need to, they always take an hour anyway. So it doesn't, so the women are saying, oh, you know, it's meant to come within 20 minutes or even 10 minutes. But I said, but they've never done that. So try not to.
Right.
But it's difficult because if you're that one person, then obviously it would come back to you. Oh, the midwife said, da, 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 da. So, yes, so it feels a little bit precarious at the moment, trying to hold on to home births and to physiological birth, because when people go and set foot in the hospital, that's when the whole doctors being involved, and then you're having to go against, you know, potentially go against hospital policy, you know, telling the women that other ways of self-care exist. In some ways you feel a little bit, yeah, it feels, even there's a top midwife in Britain, she's called Shawn Walker. She's like an expert about breech, and in fact she's done loads of research about training midwives in breech birth, and she's like a consultant, a specialist consultant midwife. She's won funding for lots of, and she works at 4 main hospitals, and recently she applied for a job at at a local hospital in London. And because she didn't hit the tick boxes that the interviewer was saying, they didn't give her a job as a agency midwife. And actually this midwife was saying, look, if I can't get a job because I wasn't hitting the right tick boxes, it shows that the people who are interviewing me know nothing about midwifery. Even they talked about hypnosis, actually, because under the guidelines in British hospitals, seemingly hypnosis isn't to be used yet. But she says, but hypnobirth is used, you know, the women are hypnobirthing, so we should support them with that. But because she said that, she wasn't offered a job. So it was just, and then when she went home after feeling like, well, if they can't give me a job, she went home and she saw that she had been removed from a consultant midwives group, and her name had been removed, even from people that she knew quite well. So she's like, you know, this feels it feels like a group, like not the mafia is the wrong word, but you know, it feels like a gangster group that if you're not saying the right things,
you're ostracized.
You're ostracized. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. So reading that, you know, because we all so admire this woman, you know, maybe it was just a glitch, but the fact that she was then removed from the the consultant midwives group, it's just like, this is crazy, because people will stop. It's cutting off a voice.
Yeah.
And now, because our NHS is going downhill fast in Britain, you know, people being able to access whatever care, you know, actually, if they had more midwives able to look after women for physiological birth, they would have so much more time for the people that did need the medical care. But because of money, it seems becoming more like a private healthcare, people are going to have to. So yeah, so that, sorry, I put a bit of a downer on it, but it feels a bit,
No, it's
you know,
important
sort
to
of
know what's
scary.
going on. Yeah, it's disheartening, but if one doesn't look at how things are, ideas of how to go about it don't come up either. Wow. And are there any groups of either midwives or any kind of activists speaking out?
Oh, yeah, there's actually, she was meant to come on the one I did with you, Dyer in Malvern, the course I came with you. There was a lady, she's amazing. Actually, the other two you can join. It's Kemi Johnson, and there's an app you can get called Clubhouse app. Yeah, I'll write it after I've finished speaking, and this Clubhouse app, it's like a conversation that can take part with people from any part of the world. And on Tuesday evenings at 8 o'clock British time, she'll be starting it again. She does this physiological birth club, and you can just go and listen, or you can take part in the conversation. But each week they discuss induction of labor or meconium or different things, and it's amazing. You get different people's experiences, but she's very she's a real activist in trying to, she's she's very big on social media, putting up the statistics of the hospitals and saying what, you know, she's really putting shame on the on the people, but also making changes. And there's another lady who's a doula, actually, who works near me. She's only an hour away, but she has a Facebook page. I'll write her a name as well. And she has 20,000 followers now. She has a home birth Facebook page. And she also does a page about free birth, but more about the home birth. But she's been on the television as well, talking about the importance of supporting women with physiological birth.
What is her name?
Her name's Samantha Gadsden. I'll write it in the thing.
Okay.
But she's a really she's amazing. But she only lives a short distance from me. Actually, I have never met her in the flesh, but I've seen her. Yeah.
And Rachel, what does free birthing look like socially? Like, is the term already well accepted? And when somebody says, "Oh, I'm going to free birth," do people consider her like, "Oh, okay, that's great," or is it very ostracized as well?
No, I hadn't really heard until probably 2 years ago. I'd never heard. I'd never even thought about free birth. I just thought a free birth was what we called a BBA, which is born before arrival, so born before the midwife arrives. So I'd never really heard that thing, but now I can see more women are thinking of it. But this Samantha lady, this doula, she really says it's so important that you prepare yourselves. You're not just thinking, oh, I can't go to the hospital, so I'll have my baby. I'm due tomorrow and I'll have the baby at home. She says you've really got to look into why you're wanting to do that and what you can do, what you need to look out for, what you can do to help yourself should you need to.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I think it is becoming more common, but not a huge, but I'm definitely much more aware of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you
Mm.
know of more and more people having free births. And
Yeah. And
Mhm.
I've had a few people say, would you attend my birth? Just attend to be in the, not as a midwife, just as a birth attendant. And I have, in my heart, I haven't been able to say yes,
Mhm.
which I sort of feel, oh, is that a lack of courage? Or I just think I would want to know, because if you free birth, you're not meant to have anybody give any medical care.
So what would be the point of them asking you to be there?
They would, yeah, I would have to be there as not as a midwife,
So why
just as
would
a
they want
friend.
you there? Why would they want you?
Yeah, I suppose that's a question I should ask them.
Yeah, because I think what you're feeling is if they're inviting you to be there, but they don't want your input or your participation, what makes you liable to is the responsibility in case something goes terribly wrong, the baby dies or the mother hemorrhages to death or something, because you are indeed a midwife, even though you may be there in the role of a friend, you can't undo what you know. Or if you see that the baby's not breathing, you can't just stand by and do nothing. And at least that's what the law would say. You were there and you did nothing, so it's your responsibility. There is a certain liability, and I would certainly ask the people, why would you want for me to be there if you don't want anything done? In that case, just be by yourselves. Because I think they're probably asking you because there is a little bit of an insecurity, and they may feel that your presence gives them safety, which implies doing something in case something goes wrong.
Mm. Mm.
So I don't think it's lack of courage, Rachel. I think it's definitely worth thinking about it. I was recently last year called to be a midwife of a couple, a lovely, lovely, lovely couple who moved to the street next to where I live. And when they went into labor, they sent us a little note. Yeah, labor, but don't come yet. We're good, we're fine. And finally, when I got there, the baby had been born, and it was beautiful, and it was lovely to see. She was in the bath with the baby. It turned out that when finally she came out of the water, she fainted, and she did have quite a bleed, and we, of course, we helped with that. After the birth, when we were talking in the postpartum period, is when we learned that that was what they wanted. They never really had the courage to say that they didn't want the midwives present. It was only in the postpartum that they said that is how they wanted it. And they were just afraid of saying it, and that I would say no. Right? And I felt completely respectful and in admiration of them. I would have accepted, especially knowing that, I live nearby. They could have called me anytime they needed me, but um, it turned out that they needed some help, because she did faint, and I don't think it would have been so easy for the dad to handle what was going on. Very interesting. But I feel great admiration for people who want to have their birth undisturbed, completely undisturbed. And of course, I would have said, you don't have to have me in the room. I would have offered to be in the living room. And if they needed anything, I'd be already right there, which is sort of what happened. But we did go to the house, not because they said come, but because the midwife and my colleague and I said, we should probably be there, And of course, the baby was born 10 minutes before we arrived, even though I live on the street over. So It's a very interesting topic, the free birth phenomena amongst modern women. Very interesting. Do you get to see much of it, Ruxandra?
I was gonna say not so much before, but recently, the past few months, twice. A free birth of woman, just somebody I know, so I didn't she's not one of the women that I accompanied, but another one, yeah, her baby was born on the 31st of December, at home, and she lives in the Alps, and she's got like a mind. She's known for a while how she wanted to give birth. She has a lot of confidence in her ability to give birth, and this despite kind of a rare neurological disease that she has, which you know she had another pregnancy last year, and turns out the baby had a serious problem, which meant that the pregnancy couldn't go to term. So, this baby now came exactly 1 year after the other one. This baby was doing fine, and she kept going. She had a midwife that she liked, but that midwife didn't do home births. They met a midwife who did home births, but her husband didn't like her. So they hated the maternity in not Grenoble, Chambéry. So they decided in their mind, they didn't tell the maternity, but they were not going to go there. And she really learned a lot about birth, and she's she's worked with horses a lot, and so she's seen many many horses and assisted horses. So, at some point she said, end of December, she said, if I were a mare now, I would know that I'm about to give birth. Things are starting to happen. And her husband was not as prepared as her, and she left a list of instructions for him saying, if this happens, do this, if this happens, do that. And she said, if you see me running around screaming and saying, call the firefighters, she wrote down, do not call the firefighters. But then this is exactly what happened. Probably I would think probably maximum dilation, at this point, when it was, she all of a sudden was seized by panic, and she ran up and down and screaming. And he was like, he read the paper, he looked at her, he read the paper, he looked at her. He was like, what is he gonna do? So he ended up calling the pompiers, the firefighters, who in France come for these kinds of situations. And then they came with a young woman, like a assistant, and she said that this woman must have understood what her idea was all along, because she had all the material, you could tell she was prepared, she had everything. So she just sidled up next to the birthing woman on the bed, and she held her hand like that and said, you know what, I'm full of admiration for what you're doing, and your baby is almost here. And she said, that is all I needed. I felt her close to me, the encouragement. So baby was born in her bed exactly like she wanted to. So she just needed such a little bit of support, but still she needed that.
Wow. And that woman was sent by the goddesses, because they could have just whisked her away.
Exactly. And so there was a doctor, so superior, and even one other person senior to this woman. But this young woman said, no, I know, let me handle it. And they were like, okay. The doctor was like, births are now my specialty. And,
Wow. Wow. And she gave birth at home.
She gave birth at home, but they still went to the maternity afterwards, because if they come and get you, then they, so she birthed the placenta at the maternity, and it was not a nice experience, because she ran into a midwife there that she hated, who was not. So anyway, that didn't go so well, but with herself, she was very happy though. because she had her baby at home.
Was she angry at her husband for calling the pompier?
No, she understood him, though she was very, I mean, she said because when the pompier came, they, she was screaming, so they wanted to put like a gas mask on her, with the product, and then she like threw it away and elbowed the guy, and then I guess he went away and the contraction stopped, and then she said something like, where is that thing? Where is that gas mask? Or something like that. And the young woman was again present, said, you don't need it. You said you don't need it. I'm sure you don't. And no, she was not angry with her husband. She understood him.
That's pretty fantastic. It's
Yeah.
pretty fantastic. It's a story that speaks about a place where the wild woman, the savage, the primate woman is meeting the modern woman inside of ourselves, because we are all always living inside of ourselves, the whole combination of all the generations and all the stages of humanity live within us, and we are stuck in a social situation, in a special historical moment and geographical place, and yet all of those layers, very thin multiple layers of existence, live within us. And what she was going through was all these layers were acting out at the same time. All of them were needing and screaming for one, because she wanted to be free and be left alone. The other one because she needed some support for her civilized mind to calm down and trust. And all these layers were acting out and wanting things, different things. So beautiful to know that she actually got everything she needed, which was to be alone and wild, and also at the very end to have someone, a woman, appease her civilized mind, to trust, into surrender, into the last bit of just the last push, probably the last bit for the
That's
baby
right.
to come out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, then
Well,
she got into, into going
I
to
wanted to ask you a question because I read somewhere that there's a relationship between, so traditionally, or I used to think that adrenaline, more adrenaline always meant less oxytocin, but I read somewhere that if it's at the very end of labor, more adrenaline is like a boost of oxytocin. What
right.
about that?
Michel Adam wrote and speaks about that. He often says, as a physiologist, that at the end, with the pushing, there comes this big gush of adrenaline to help precisely in the last bit of labor, of birthing, and somehow it does not interfere with the huge amount of oxytocin that's already there. I think they come to combine themselves. I think earlier in labor, a gush of adrenaline will counter and reduce the oxytocin. But when the oxytocin is already at its peak in birth, at the end, it will only compound itself. Rachel, have you read about it? Do you want to comment on that?
Well, I was going to say that Rachel Reed book. Do you know Rachel Reed? Ruxandra, you might like that. It's called Reclaiming Childbirth as a Rite of Passage. I will write it down.
Okay, I'm writing it down.
That's she talks about the oxytocin and adrenaline can't be in balance. You know, at the beginning you're in your logical brain and you're making your nest and who do you need close by and thinking, and you can answer questions, and then you become completely you have to become internalized and focused internally, and that's when the oxytocin is at its peak. But then when you get that calm stage, just when the body's getting ready for the big push, for the final bit of the mountain, then you have a peak of adrenaline. That's what she says anyway. That in some ways the woman's thinking she's in a place of safety in her heart, and she needs to just get on with the powerful process of birth while she's in a safe place. So you need that little spike of adrenaline to give you that heat of energy.
And the feeling as a birthing woman is like a superpower. It doesn't necessarily transfer itself as a nervousness or as a insecurity like adrenaline would when, you know, ordinarily if you're getting chased by a dog or afraid of a burglar or something, you know, or a tree falling in front of you, it feels like a superpower comes over you to push the baby out, like a prah. But it's combined with a high peak of oxytocin already. So that's a big difference for sure.
Yeah, I was researching oxytocin just a little bit earlier, a few weeks ago, and I did come across a study that seems to show that towards the end of labor, a burst of adrenaline actually makes the oxytocin shoot up, which is not, and oftentimes a burst of oxytocin at that point, when it's coupled with adrenaline, can also result or make the mother more fierce or more aggressive, you know, like when protecting the baby. So that was very interesting.
Interesting. Do you have well, if you do find the bibliography of that, it'd be great to read it.
I'm gonna find it because I came across it. I'm not sure, but I think I kept the link somewhere. I'm gonna make a note to find the study.
Okay, great, great. It's so funny that the things that we as birthing women live through experience in our own birthing, they are being explained by science and explained by research and biochemistry, and it's very interesting because, you know, at least by reading this, all I can feel is the memory of the feeling of experiencing it, you know, as a birthing woman. And I can imagine the women who had births that were interfered, that were not respected. For example, don't push, the doctor is not here, don't push. They say that it was the worst thing that anybody would ever do to her, to prevent her from pushing when she had to push, like a deep aggression to her core, because she needed to push, and to be told not to when you're this big mountain, you know, with waterfalls coming down. How do you say don't have the water come down if they're coming down, right? So my memories are very positive of having felt that power and having been able to just go for it and allow it to freely flow. But for women who can't, they feel so traumatized and so offended and so, I guess traumatized is the word. Is there another word? Traumatized or offended and violated.
Just yesterday, I was listening to a mother tell me about this specific moment in her birth. The baby's 1 week old, and she was this is her third baby, and her first two births were like mousse au chocolat births, you know, super smooth, super fast, wonderful. And this third one, she had a bit more searching to do, and but in any case, the baby was coming, but she was at the maternity with somebody she didn't appreciate, who was like, you have to lie flat on your back, which she had never had to do for her previous births, did not want to do that. And you have to put your feet up here. And those stirrups, they were, one was forward, one was backward. And she was like, these aren't even, they're not even symmetrical. Like, can you at least figure out so then the doctor and the midwife started fiddling with the stirrups to try to put them, but they were hard to this. So they were busy with these stirrups. And she said, I seized the moment because everybody was busy with that and not paying attention to me. So I just pushed my baby out and gave birth to him, and everybody's like, whoa, the baby's already born. They were busy doing something else, so she had to, you know, find another way, and seize
Wow.
her moment and just go then. So
Wow.
a lot of force, a lot of strength and determination, and
Wow.
this at this crucial moment.
Caught them off guard, like sneak, and she was conscious of it.
Yeah.
Very
Mhm.
interesting. It's
Yeah.
like there is that combination, like I was saying earlier, of the intellectual or the neocortex being aware of the surroundings and what was happening,
Yeah.
and the animal self needing to do something, and just she seized her moment knowing that she would be probably intervened with or directed in a way that she didn't want to be.
Yeah.
I love those stories. I love to hear stories where you can see all the layers of the self being intelligent and at the same time instinctive and conscious. It's
Yeah.
fascinating.
Fascinating. After this birth, this mother said that it was the most exhausting one of my births, and also the one that gave me the most energy and that enriched me the most. Um,
Wow.
so it was interesting, the kind of the intensity of birth, and as if that's what gave the energy too.
Wow. That's very interesting. She said it gave her the most energy. And
The
where
most exhausting
exactly
and gave her the most energy.
right, right. Because she was requested to create energy to cover up for the exhaustion. Was she exhausted afterwards or both? Exhausted and energized? Both?
Um, yeah, both. And I think the fact that she survived it, because with this third baby, it turns out she understood afterwards there's a history of death in her family for one of her women, her family on the third baby. So she hadn't had this fear of death for her first two babies. She was afraid for
Wow.
this baby that she would die. And this is what was difficult, and this is what made labor slower, and so this is also why she felt that a true transformation had taken place within her, because it was like her whole being was split open, and then she survived that.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it was moving.
Yeah. Was she somebody you were caring for during the pregnancy?
Yeah, I saw her in hypnobirthing for her first baby, and then for her second, we only did one session, and it was a hypnosis session, which she basically did by herself. She walked herself through and she spoke as she was. And at the end, so she went to this beautiful winter landscape and all this stuff. And at the end, she came to a hallway with many, many doors. And she looked around her and she said, every door is the right door.
Wow.
And her baby was born 2 days later, this kind of mousse au chocolat birth, very beautiful, easy birth. And
Yeah. And
this
the third
third
one?
time, I saw her a couple of times, and every time she expressed this, she said, I feel like I was lucky the first two times. And, maybe this time it's going to catch up with me. It was kind of her feeling.
Did you know that when I was pregnant the third time, was feeling that way? Was feeling like, okay, 1 and 2 were lucky. But you know,
How interesting.
yes, but not only that. I opened a book on midwifery. I don't remember what book it was. I opened it on a page that spoke about the phenomenon of the third time mother feeling that.
Oh, that is so interesting.
It's a thing.
It's a
Thing.
thing.
It's a thing.
Oh, I did not know that. That is so interesting.
Yes.
You often find, well, when I've been working in the hospital, the third baby always seems to be the longer one, the longer, more difficult birth.
How interesting.
Unless
And
you,
do we know why?
unless you've worked with it, because she has a consciousness. I worked with that because I recognized that feeling in my third pregnancy. I ran into this chapter in a book about I think it's the third baby syndrome, or the syndrome of the third time birther, or something like that.
Wow.
It's been 23 years, so I don't remember what book it was, but it's a thing. It was talked about, and it has to do with, I think, the culture, our culture, which says 1, 2, and the 3. I don't know. It's a cultural thing. It's like, how can I ever be as lucky as having 3 incredible healthy births? That could be too much luck. I don't
Wow.
know. I think it would be
Wow.
probably worth investigating a little bit, doing a little research on
It
that.
is very interesting.
I'm gonna look it up just as we speak, just to the third birth syndrome. I don't know. No, that's about the baby. Birth order. No, we have to look it up with more calmness, more time. But it will be a thing to find. And I think that for example, the fear of that third child, it was also compounded by the fact that somebody in her family had died giving birth to a third child. And I've worked with women who have had that. And what I've often said, the first time it occurred to me, it worked. And then I've used it again, for them to write a letter to themselves and to their child, committing to do this and this and this and that, all the experiences they're going to have after the birth of the baby. Okay, when you're 2, I will take you to visit your grandmother somewhere, and when you're 7, I'll take you to Disneyland, or whatever it is that makes
Yeah.
sense to her. And having a list of commitments. I even had a woman here in Brazil, which was very, very amazing. On the next pregnant prenatal consultation, I asked, did you write the letter? And she said, oh, of course, I wrote it. And she took it to the notary, to the public notary, to stamp. Because to her, that meant true commitment. It was she had signed it, and it got rid of her fear, because she had a commitment with her child. She was going to do all those things with it. So of course she had to survive. She couldn't die in childbirth if she had all those commitments.
That's wonderful. A
Yeah.
wonderful idea.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm sure you working with hypnobirthing, you can definitely get to do that even without having to go to the notary. I found that fascinating.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I really like the idea of the letter to the baby. I
Yeah.
really do. Mhm.
Yeah, and also there is a homeopathy, which is very good for getting rid of fear, the fear that follows a person. It's called like the black cloud fear. The person saying, oh, I'm afraid of this and this and that. And you may say, oh, don't worry, because, it'll be okay because of this and that. But the woman doesn't, or the person can't really let go of that black cloud. No matter what she does, the cloud follows. And there's a homeopathy. It's a simisifuga, which also clears out those types of pessimisms. It's like a pessimism, or like a dark thought that follows around. So I've combined that idea of the letter with the homeopathy to help clear it, and it seems to be quite miraculous, because it takes like a week or a few days, and the person can feel completely different, just cleared. Yeah, so many different things we can talk about. I love this little group of feels like we're having a little chat over tea. Very
Yeah.
nice. And
It's so
I
nice.
know Melissa Chapel is supposed to be here. I don't know if she had to run. There you are, Melissa.
Hi, I'm driving, so I just set my phone down and yeah, but I have to say here, I have to show this to you all. I'm driving in a national forest right now.
Wow.
I don't know if you can see, it's so pretty. But
Are you going on a vacation?
Yeah, so I always take all of January off, and I went to Cuba. I know we don't have much time, so I'll try to hurry.
No,
but
please.
I went.
Go ahead.
I just got back from Cuba, and tried really hard to find any midwives or doulas there, and unless they're very, very hidden, couldn't find any doulas or midwives
Uh-huh.
at
Yeah,
all.
yeah, it's true. They
Yeah.
are pretty much disappeared. Very,
Yeah.
very difficult to find.
Yeah. So I talked to some women about, the process of birth, and the doctors there are quite good, and they have maternity homes that take care of women if they're having any problems or struggles. But it made me feel very thankful for the choices that we have here.
Uh-huh.
So
Yes.
yeah. And it's so wonderful to meet all of you and hear your stories.
And it's very nice to hear that you take vacations on January. It's an example
Yes. So I'm driving
I will follow.
I'm driving to Arizona right now because it's too cold. I live in Utah, and it's so
Very
cold
cold.
right now. So,
Yeah.
Yes, very cold. Yes. Yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, I think it's a way to make. I'm a midwife, and I think it's a way to make midwifery sustainable. I see so many midwives that just burn out so badly, and I think I did in the last 2 weeks of September and all of October. I did something like attended 22 births, and they weren't all my clients, but I had to supervise many of them. So don't worry, they had midwives that were, but it was a lot. And so it's really nice to take this vacation, and but of course I still have to do birth. I still have to get on these meetings and say hi to all of you.
Well, it's a pleasure to see you, and I wish you a very good vacation, very good trip. Enjoy yourself.
Thank you.
Deeply. And we will see each other next time. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much. And soon you will have the video, which is a conference I gave in Amsterdam with the topic of combining traditional midwifery with modern obstetrics. And I think we're going to be posting it tonight. So you'll be able to see it probably tomorrow already. If not tomorrow, because you never know, something may happen. It will certainly be here on Monday for you to enjoy.
Well, I was there at that conference, Naoli. It was amazing.
You were there, Melissa.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah.
We decided to make it available on the platform because it was a good conference. I enjoyed it very much.
So good. So good.
Well, very well. I kiss you all very warmly. I send you very, very, very good wishes for this year. May this year be luminous and relaxing and fruitful and joyful and fun for all of us. And of course, we will be meeting each other on the next session. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Naoli, and all of you. I enjoyed meeting all of you.
Good night to everyone.
Good night. Bye.
Thank you.